If you're watching this video right now, you have been warned about Bitcoin because things could get slightly, but definitely worse from here. Because as it stands right now, yes, we have seen a very beautiful correction in the Bitcoin price of roughly 18.09 or so percent, but realistically speaking, we have a little bit more room to go down based partially on this 2021 top. And that is actually what most people have been preaching. But I'll tell you right now, there are some conflicting signs though. Because even though the rejection and following up on that, the correction was definitely expected, predicting exactly how deep it's going to be obviously is the more difficult part. And so from my own perspective, everything below $61,300 per Bitcoin is buying region. And even though logically we still have a little bit of room to go down, I'd say that the bottom will lie somewhere within this box. Again, my own expected value at roughly 60,000. Right now, the lowest point being 60.775. But there even being potential for a bounce off of 57.5 before continuing higher. And before we get too excited with the recovery right now, going from 60.7 thousand to 64, remember this. Over the last couple of days, we've seen multiple rejections and multiple recoveries pretty quickly afterwards. Just to put into perspective, here the Bitcoin price went down roughly, let's take a look, roughly 11% before going up 8% again. Then the price went down roughly 9% before going up, let's see here, about 7% again, then going down roughly 12%, right now being up only 6. So even if we go back towards this line, it'd be a little push of roughly 8.3% going back to 66,000 before potentially actually falling back from that line, and it would still actually fulfill this little downtrend that we are seeing right here. Having said that, as these prices are trending lower, we right now are getting into a zone where we're seeing more support relative to all the crazy price discovery we had not too long ago. And if we take a look at this from a broader angle, the correction and the zone that we're entering right now is pretty much the same zone as we had all the way back in 2021 when the crypto prices came crumbling down as well. So what we're seeing right here is extremely healthy and extremely beneficial for the longer term. Now I will add, I noticed some people in the comment section saying that the price action we're seeing right here looks kind of similar to price action like right here in March of 2022. And the difference here being, even though this candle right here is definitely a very bearish candle, a top candle of sorts, you have to understand the sentiment difference. Right here, us being on the way back down, whereas right here, we're basically on the start of the legs upwards. And I'll say three things really quickly. First of all, MicroStrategy keeps on buying the freaking dip because they know what's up. They just bought at $67,000 per Bitcoin. So even in comparison to them, you're getting a good discount. Second of all, BlackRock just launched their digital asset fund and deposited 100 million USDC onto the Ethereum network. So don't think this is dying out, we're just getting started. And in that similar field, $30 billion RIA platform Carson Group Vice President says, we're seeing advisors allocate 3.5% of client households to spot Bitcoin ETFs, signifying obvious belief, faith, and excitement. And the only negative thing I can say is that yesterday we saw the largest single Bitcoin ETF outflow, breaking a new record. But obviously, if you take a look at this chart, with all this new gained glory, with all these newly gained heights, we will have to inevitably see some days of outflow. This is not a game for little children, ladies and gentlemen. If you have billions of dollars coming in, at some point you're gonna have some millions of dollars coming out. This, however, and this is something very, very important for you guys to understand as well, could, however, be a broader tactic where some of them are exiting slightly before the halving because of a black swan event they want to throw at your face. Not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying everybody's got their own tactics, and these guys have got a lot of money to allocate. I mean, you got to understand, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of positions keep getting liquidated because people are afraid or over leveraged, which is why we keep saying that these rejections and these corrections are healthy because it vanishes. It just takes away some of that leverage of the people that are either inexperienced or over risking things. With low leverage in markets like this, like I've explained with my bot strategy time and time again, it's pretty simple. And so if you haven't done it yet, make sure you check out the links down below to Bybit, BitGet, or OKX in the opposite order. Bybit I use the most for my everyday trading. I just use it every single day. BitGet I don't use for any trading, just some bots, but mediocre ones. OKX I use for all my bots. And it's the main exchange I'm using right now. If you haven't done it yet, make sure you sign up with the link down below because we're a team and together we can achieve some lucky and juicy bonuses. But just check it out, links down below. And I'll do more setup guides in the near future. I've done one like I think a couple of weeks ago. And the idea is just simple. You set up bots that DCA, so buy on the way down, so that on the leg upwards, you make crazy amounts of profit. And so anybody following my strategy, what would have basically happened, right, is that the bot initially tries to buy at any point. Even if we say, for example, right here, it bought for the first time. What it's going to do is it's going to wait until it's a certain percentage down, buy again, certain percentage down, buy again, and then on the way back upwards, as you're in a certain amount of profit, let's say, for example, plus 0.8%, right there, for example, it decides to take profit, so it exits you out. But then at the same time, it buys again. You might say, huh, why would it buy again? Well, because it wants to take profit at some point in the future once more. But let's say it can't go straight up, right? But the price comes down. What we're doing is, as it comes down, we buy again. And as it comes down, we buy again until once more, we're up 0.8% or so, and then it sells and you get your profit. This only works in bull markets, but it works beautifully in bull markets. Because right now what Bitcoin is doing, we all believe the same thing, right? Is that it's inevitable for higher prices to come. We all know it's going to happen. The only question is, how deep will it come? And I just specified the range that I'm looking at for Bitcoin, and we've basically tapped into that already. At this point, I believe there's a very high chance we're going to see some slightly lower prices, but I'm willing to take the risk, and I'm basically putting most of that into this rejection that we could potentially see at roughly 66,000, or basically at the trend line. However, I will add one very important statement, which is if you just keep buying the fear with Bitcoin, but also with altcoins, but let's stick to Bitcoin here. Like DeFi2 said, at this stage in the sell-off, I'm pretty sure you can pick up anything basically in the market and be up on it in 24 to 48 hours from now. And again, just to put it into perspective, this guy is one of the best traders I've ever met in my life. These are rookie numbers, but as you can see, up at least 8 figures in a year, which I think is pretty good if you're doing it on your own. And I'll remind you guys of this, what I showed you a little bit ago, the idea that corrections are healthy, they're gonna inevitably happen time and time again. And in hindsight, at the start of the bull market where we're at right now, I'd say we're at these type of prices, perhaps one run higher. Let's say we're right here, where we just had a massive leg up and right now are getting shaken out a little bit. If you just keep buying the dip and you look back in, let's say 6 months from now, you'll be up a ton. I've been saying this for just time and time since I made the channel, and thus far it would have always been correct. Don't get feared out. Don't get scared out by some institutional money leaving. Because if you look at the P&L or you look at the net flow, you'd understand these guys are basically just panicking and buying as much as possible, just like MicroStrategy is. And many people laughed at them for a good while. But if we look back in a few months from now, I think the range that we're getting these prices at right now is definitely not too bad, even though there is a good chance we're going to be falling slightly lower. And all I'll do is just add even more at that point. But I think it's all going to rely on the $66,000 mark. Depending on when we get there, perhaps slightly lower at 65, we shall see. This is going to be very interesting.